Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Innal hamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters and friends. And we're continuing with the need for and the miracle of revelation. Spoken about many things, and we were articulating how you can talk about the linguistic and literary miracle of the Quran without knowing anything about the Arabic language. We talked about testimony and the inference of the best explanation. We looked at possible explanations. Was it from an Arab, a non-Arab, Muhammad ﷺ, or God, Allah? We discussed why it couldn't be from an Arab. We discussed why it couldn't be from a non-Arab. And now we're discussing the next possible explanation. Maybe Muhammad ﷺ was a genius. Maybe it came from him. But these are the reasons why it couldn't have been from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Reason number one. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an Arab himself. And if the best Arabs failed, then how can he do it? What makes him different and special? And he wasn't known to have composed any piece of literature, to have acquired any rhetorical gifts or sciences of the eloquence or Arabic balagha or rhetoric. He wasn't engaged in the sphere to debate with poets. He wasn't refined linguistically from that perspective. So I can even claim that he came up with something that no one can challenge. This is reductio ad absurdum, the logical fallacy of it's reduced to absurdity. Yeah, so it just doesn't make sense. He was an Arab too. The other reason is that the Arab linguists at the time of revelation later decided it couldn't have come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if Muhammad ﷺ being the author of the Quran was a valid argument, don't you think they would have used it? Because they were fighting this man. It destroyed the whole economic structure of their society and their religious ideological beliefs. They would have stuck to that point that, yeah, it was from you. But then they were dumbfounded saying, actually, it can't be from you. It's someone other than you. A third point is the Quran is a known literary masterpiece. Take Martin Zamet, for example, a academic from the Netherlands. He says, notwithstanding, I think he's from the Netherlands or from Malta, I don't remember. But anyway, he says, notwithstanding pre-Islamic poetry, the Quran is the most eminent written manifestation of the Arabic language. It is a masterpiece. But all known masterpieces, brothers and sisters and friends, they don't get revealed instantaneously and there you go, there's a masterpiece. Masterpieces require additions. They require thought, and you have your first draft, your second draft, your third draft, review. But the Quran was instantaneously revealed, and as it was revealed, it was preserved. But yet, it maintains itself as a literary masterpiece. Isn't this crazy? Isn't this amazing? How on earth can it be a literary masterpiece? When poets used to travel to mountains in seclusion just to develop rhetorical devices for months, the Quran revealed straight away and it's a literary masterpiece without an addition, without any peer review, without any kind of competition, without any kind of peer review. It's just an impossibility, which is quite interesting. We also know it couldn't have come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because consider it from a psycholinguistic perspective. When we look at the seerah, the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even when the Quran talks about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced trials and tribulation in his 23 prophetic career, an emotional roller coaster. His beloved wife Khadija radiallahu anha passed away. His beloved uncle passed away. His children passed away. He was boycotted, abused, starved. He was dishonored, degraded. He engaged in warfare. He was stoned by children in Taif. It was this phenomenal roller coaster of an experience. But yet none of these emotions from a psycholinguistic perspective are in the Quran. The Quran remains in a divine voice. This is almost a psycholinguistic impossibility, brothers and sisters and friends. Because when you study psycholinguistics, when you read Shakespeare, you know some of Shakespeare's characters in Shakespeare, even from a subtle perspective. But the Quran, from a psycholinguistic perspective, is in the divine voice all the time. To the point where even the Quran tells off Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he frowned at a blind man. Do you see? The Quran remains in the divine voice and doesn't represent the emotions and the psychology of someone who experienced all of these trials and tribulations. So how can it be from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Also, brothers and sisters and friends, we know it couldn't have come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because his hadith, his prophetic traditions, are in a distinct style to that of the Qur'an. How can someone maintain this consistently over 23 years? Now you may argue, what about rap stars? They have their rap and they talk normally. Yeah, of course they do. But to really maintain this over a 23-year period, to have such a distinct style, is close to impossibility. But there's even more evidence. There's been statistical evidence comparing Bukhari to the Qur'an. And around over 80% of the words in Bukhari, they're not in the Qur'an. There is distinct, different use of vocabulary, which is almost practically impossible for someone to maintain. So from this perspective, how could it come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? But there's a final argument I think lays, frankly, the smackdown on this explanation. People think that it came from Muhammad. It lays a smackdown. And what is it? It's about human expression. Because every human expression, brothers and sisters and friends, every human expression, if you have the blueprint, you can imitate it. Take, for example, retrospective engineering. When the Chinese, they happen to find American drones and they're broken down and they fall into Chinese land, they take it and they could retrospectively engineer it. You have the kind of blueprint of the technology and they copy their technology. Take, for example, replica watches. You have the blueprint of a Rolex and you find some in Pakistan. It's not from Rolex, but it's almost identical. Take, for example, artwork. Picasso, very unique. But yet, it's Google, replicas of Picasso. You could buy them cheap. But they're almost identical to Picasso because we have the existing blueprint, the brushstrokes, the type of canvas used, the design. But with the Quran, we have the blueprint today. We have the blueprint today, the Quran itself. We know what words are used. We know the rhythm, the style, the grammar, the assonance. We know everything. We have the blueprint. But we cannot use that blueprint to imitate it. This means it can't be human expression. Because all human expression, brothers, sisters and friends, if we have the blueprint, we can imitate it. Take, for example, people who build the Lamborghini for a living. Give them the blueprint of the Lamborghini, all the possible tools, and all the possible, pieces, right? They should be able to put it together. But when they exhaust everything, all possibilities, they can't. What does it mean? It means that it cannot have come from a human being. Just like with the Quran. We have the tools at our disposal, the finite grammatical words, the finite grammar, the finite words, and we have a finite set of linguistic devices. And when we try and exhaust them, we can't produce anything like the Quran. What does it mean about the author? It can't be human. So, brothers and sisters and friends, we can conclude it couldn't have come from an Arab, it couldn't have come from a non-Arab, it couldn't have come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, it must have come from God. This is the inference to the best explanation. To deny this is like denying medicine. That we can't infer the best explanation that someone has a cold, or someone has cancer, or so many different things in human knowledge. The inference of the best explanation is indispensable to human knowledge. You use background information and data and you infer to the best explanation. We've used the background information concerning testimony. The Quran is inimitable, cannot be imitated. And it's the best form of testimony to take because it doesn't ignore the background information concerning the eloquence and the linguistic achievements of the 7th century Arab. Then we infer. We look at the best explanations. Well, it either came from an Arab, a non-Arab, Muhammad sallallahu or God. And we just analyze this based upon the data. And the inference of the best explanations that it came from God. To deny this is like denying that someone has the common cold from that perspective. So this is very interesting. And you didn't have to know anything about the Arabic language. Just take the testimonial knowledge that it is inimitable, the Quran is inimitable, combine it with the inference of the best explanation, can't come from an Arab, can't come from a non-Arab, can't come from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, must come from, there you go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's go back to the philosophy of miracles just for a moment, brothers, sisters and friends. You remember what we said about the philosophy of miracles? That, you remember the staff and the snake? What's in the snake is not in the staff. There's no logical, physical connection. But let's apply this act of impossibility, this non-naturalistic explanation to the linguistic miracle of the Quran. It's very simple. The Quran is a miraculous event, but its nature is the Arabic language. If we could explain it naturalistically, we should be able to go to the Arabic language, combine the 28 finite letters, the grammatical rules, words, the finite linguistic devices, use our human capacity, and try and exhaust all possibilities via our human capacity to emulate the Qur'an. We should be able to emulate the Qur'an. But we can't. We go to the nature of the Qur'an, which is Arabic language. We exhaust all possibilities. We can't produce the Qur'an. Hold on a second. But the Qur'an is in Arabic. Maybe it means it's a miracle. Just like the snake and the staff. The snake came from the staff, but what's in the snake is not in the staff. But it came from the staff. There's no physical natural link, so it's a sign to the supernatural. Just like the Qur'an. Here's the miraculous event in the Qur'an. It came from the Arabic language. But what's in the Qur'an in terms of its unique literary form can be explained by exhausting the Arabic language. So there's no natural physical link, no natural explanation because we exhaust the Arabic language using our human capacity. Therefore, it's best explained by the supernatural. Because if there was a naturalistic explanation, someone should be able to go to the Arabic language and exhaust all possibilities and produce the form of the Qur'an. But we can't. So what does it say about the author? It's supernatural. It's a miracle by definition. It's an act of impossibility. The event has no natural link to where it came from. No logical causal connection, just like the staff and the snake. Therefore, the Qur'an is a linguistic miracle. We have many people talking about this, brothers, sisters, and friends. For example, we have scholarly views by Professor Bruce Lawrence in his book, The Qur'an, a Biography, on page number 8. He says, as tangible signs, Quranic verses are expressive of inexhaustible truth. They signify meaning laid within meaning, light upon light, miracle after miracle. We also have the academic A.J. Arbery. He says, in making the present attempt to improve on the performance of predecessors and to produce something which might be accepted as echoing, however faintly, the sublime rhetoric of the Arabic Qur'an, I have been at pain to study the intricate and richly varied rhythms which, apart from the message itself, constitutes the Qur'an's undeniable claim to rank amongst the greatest literary masterpieces of mankind. From this perspective, brothers and sisters and friends, how can this come from a human being? Now, some people do claim, though, maybe Shakespeare is divine, because isn't Shakespeare the best form of English? Well, this hasn't understood the argument itself, because Shakespeare is not unique. Because Shakespeare had a form that was replicated by others like Christopher Marlowe and John Fletcher. He used to use the iambic pentameter, trochaic verse, and other styles and forms that was used by many English literateurs of the time and his contemporaries. So it's not unique like the Qur'an is unique, which, apart from the message itself, constitutes the Qur'an's undeniable claim to rank amongst the greatest literary masterpieces of mankind.